Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're doing well. Today is April 21st, 2026. And this is the audio edition to the Daily Trade Strategy Briefing. NFA Compliance Rule 2-29C Subparagraph 1. Industry regulations, you know all about that. Past performance not indicative of future results, so forth and so on. All right, am I loud? Oh, loud and clear. Okay. Thanks, John. I thought I was too loud. All right, let's take a look where we are today. Begins a new cycle. And as you can see here, there was no real decline overnight from the prior close. As such, we're kind of grinding up. We hit the first targets, 71.75, 85 zone. Right, the high just actually missed it by 2 points, but within that 5 point buffer zone. So pretty much fulfilled that target zone, and right up into as well the money box edge, and then we've gotten a pullback to the prior high. All right. So of course the market is somewhat discounting, I believe, the Iran conflict thing, but of course it can fire up at any moment, negatively, positively. But really, it seems as though, again, yesterday we got our Globex opening, classic gap down, okay, and then reclaim. And then today we just got simply continuation, right? And we're just basically testing, right, the highs from Friday. So all within the normal context of, structural integrity, I would say, right? So we have kind of this channel working right now from this angle, right? It would take a break initially below the close to try to get some sort of a decline. If it does, we have outlined in the daily trade strategy some lower levels which have not been tested yet. All right. It really seems though the rhythms have really slowed down actually, given everything that's going on. But again, we talked about that shock absorber effect. And certainly appears as though that the shock absorber effect is, and if you don't know what the shock absorber effect, by the way, is, all right, that is something new that I've posted in the glossary section of the website. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in understanding what kind of the whole idea of what the shock absorber effect is. All right. I don't have a lot to say this morning. I usually have a fair amount, but I don't have a lot to say this morning. Do review yesterday's video. We were talking about kind of setting up ways of backtesting, some ideas, and kind of a process to that. So if you missed yesterday's live, go back. Go back to review the video of that yesterday morning. All right. So it is a cycle. Day one price has again fulfilled the cycle day one penetration level here at the 75s. Again, that was one of our targets. 85s, and then the other target I had was up here near the 90s, which has not fulfilled yet naturally. So what would we need to see here? Bulls, right? So this is the prior high right here. currently around the 60s. So again, from a strong bullish perspective, you don't want to see that get violated. I mean, it can dip below it, but we'd be looking for some sort of a reclaim to hold above it. So that would be bullish scenario. Uh, Bearish scenario, if there is really a bearish scenario, I don't think there's a super bearish scenario yet, right? But clearly, a pullback to prior close would certainly be within the normal expectations. We would certainly try to look for a reclaim again of the high if that were to occur. So again, just kind of laying out some potentialities here. A bit more negative would be a break back below the close, right? And then fail, right, to reclaim. So of course that would start, kind of looking for maybe probably a deeper move, right, down to the 20s, 25 zone here, right, if that were to occur. So just kind of laying out some scenarios um, on the bigger picture, right? That's pretty much it. Anybody else have anything from your perspective? All right. Yeah. So we're pretty much here. Again, you can still see here. What did I have a line in the sand today? 51, excuse me, 71 fitties, right? Is the a line in this a line in the sand for us. All right. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, VWAPs right into this area. You get an A10. Right, you got an A10 area here. So, and you got Trumpster, jibber jabbering. So, it sounds as though like he flips flops on, I'm gonna blow up everything, and then I don't want to extend the deal, and then maybe I have all the time in the world to extend the deal. I mean, can you figure it out? All right, I don't think anybody can. All right, so we just gotta let the cards play out as they are, right? But what that does is that's just obviously the market does not like, uncertainty, and though the uncertainty um, does provide opportunity. So when there's a lot of certainty, opportunity shrinks. When there's a lot of uncertainty or heightened uncertainty, there's actually more opportunity. So just keep that in mind. All right, right here at the point of control, again, it's anybody's, flip-flop on what they want to do. Currently, the momentum or directional momentum favors the sell, but again, we're right at this high volume node, right, VWAP area, so we could get a snap up or a push down in a heartbeat. So you can see how the price action is really narrowed. So when you get this narrowing of price action, right, again, it's kind of compression. And when you get compression, right, so you can kind of see this compressing here. So compression leads to what, right? Expansion. So which direction? Who knows? You got the 89 here. You got VWAP up here, right? You get a high volume node here. I mean, this is anybody's guess, jump ball, right? So whatever the next bit of order flow comes in, we'll either jam it higher or jam it lower. I don't know. All right. But anyways, bottom line is if you're, doesn't mean you have to trade in here, right? Again, remember, always follow your plan, whatever that may be, regardless of what I say. Okay. So all I'm doing is outlining, you know, the current structure, the activity, where to potentially looking for trades, etc. But ultimately, you have to work your plan, and that's how we move forward. Okay. That's it. Anybody have any else? If not, I'm going to take it just a quick 2-minute break, and then I'll be back. All right, back with you here for the opening. Mark, how do you hear me now? The volume good? Okay. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. All right, let's see what they have on the opening here. Salvo. All right, they're holding this high volume node, and we should be open in just a few seconds. All right, here we go. Ding, 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 ding. Holy moly, where do you want to go? Unbelievable. The battle at the 62s. Incredible. Incredible. All right, sellers won out on the opening push. Again, we had that negative momentum coming in. It was just incredible right there on the opening where it was just battle, right? We talked about expansion, right? Follow it all this tight contraction, just incredible. But again, the lean was to the downside, so if you were going to make a bet based upon that, anyways. Okay, is that better now, Mark, since you turned it up? Okay, I can't turn mine up any longer, any higher rather. Brutal. Okay. All right, so I don't really have anything at the moment. The next area would be the shift to the A10. Okay, so on this A10, by the way, we did not get a trigger. I'm using right side pivot rule. Okay, and the way I have this, if it closes below the zone, okay, if we get a bar close before any trigger, it does not trigger. So, oops, sorry about that. All right, so no trigger, no trade, and we're just waiting for the next sequence. All right. All right, so the so again, it is a cycle day one, so let's review that for a moment once again, right? So one of the scenarios we laid out early, all right, was to come back down and test the prior close. We're getting that test at the moment. Again, from the bullish case, we would want to see this hold and then reclaim the prior high. So that's the bullish case. Bearish case would be a push below the close, fail to reclaim, okay, and then rotate lower. Again, targets down here would be 20, 25-ish. All right, if we get that rotation lower. All right, so that was the outline coming in. And right now we're going to stay to the sell lean. All right, so those are the levels I think pretty much everybody is going to be paying attention to, not only us. I think everybody's going to be paying attention to those particular areas. All right, so we'll just be patient for a setup. All right. All right. All right. All right. So we got the side anyways. We're going to just be leaning to the sell side, looking for opportunities. We get a bounce and a stall and a roll. But again, 71.50s, all right, line in sand. And we'll see how this plays out. On the crude oil front, the opening range, let's pull that in. All right, for you guys trading opening range, again on the crude oil front, we did get a short off. First target got fulfilled, and then the stop trail at entry was elected, so that's a positive trade there. On the ESNQ, all right, both triggered short on the opening range trade, and we'll let that play out. So that's on the other screen, so I'll bring that over when necessary. All right, we have an A4 staged. We'll see if that triggers off, but we got a staged order. Not a triggered one yet. All right. So 285, 761, 285, add. All right, we got a premium here. If you want to play, looking to play this, see if we get a rotation back down, right around that closing area line in the sand. I don't know. It just feels like gonna be a trappy day today. Could be wrong, but just kind of feels like a trappy type session. All right, no trigger on that. You know, a lot of times you can sense what the day is gonna, at least the early part of the day is gonna unfold as from the overnight, kind of action, right? And particularly coming right into the opening. Currently two high volume nodes, right? One at VWAP, right? One here at 53s, basically 61, 62s. We get the Pamela Anderson effect right now. Ooh, 285. Let's see, get that out of there, get that out of there. Sixty-one. All right, we are short of the A4. The premium, though, did not trigger. All right, so the A4 is out. Again, the premium never triggered. And we're holding basically the close. Let's go back to that for a second. Okay, so we're basically holding the close. All right, a little dip below it, reclaim. Again, that was one of the scenarios. And then coming, the next level was the prior high here. All right, again, bulls want to reclaim that candle, that 60-minute candle, that level. All right, and then they can kind of work to push higher. So that's the next decision point. DP as we call it, all right, decision point or decision point zone would be the prior high at 71.60s. All right. And again, the line in the sand here today is 71.50s. So all good within the context of the daily trade strategy right now. I think we outlined the levels well. Now it's just what Mr. Market wants to do with these levels around this area. Yeah, I see that. All right, so again, nothing to the downside. Again, we just got this kind of little, I don't know, I don't know what you want to call it, little kind of scuffle to shake some people out. All right, bought it back. All right, now we're shifting to the buy side. All right, so let's write this down on here. Buy side lean now. Just going with the flow, whatever Mr. Market wants to do, right? And guys, I'll be back in just a couple minutes. All right, all right. What does Mr. Market want to do here? Back to VWAP. All right, we do have an 810 trigger here against this zone. The earlier one did not trigger on the long, so this one did trigger here. We'll see if we get some love out of this one. So high volume node to high volume node. Just keep in mind high volume nodes are magnets, right? So there's a lot of activity at those areas, so tends to attract participation. All right, so we'll see if they want to. So two things, right? So again, high volume node here, right? We either looking for an acceptance, right, or rejection. That's essentially the kind of the binary decision, right? Prices come up here, right? Obviously a magnet for both sides. They can do business, but does it get rejected? Or in this case, we moved up into it, so acceptance would be staying up here and then pushing higher. Why? Because it came from below. It sounds like a horror movie, doesn't it? It came from below. Could be a horror movie if you show it. Looks like it's trying to be accepted here. Buyers are, again, still fairly robust out of the gate here now on this move. It came from below. All right, not getting any love out of this one. Like I said, I think it's gonna be, feels like it's gonna be one of those days. All right, could be a long walk day today at lunchtime. Yep. Yeah, so it's kind of flagging here now, right? So you get this move up, kind of sideways, and that's a bullish flag, kind of play. So again, acceptance or rejection. So that area, ate through. Now the whole idea then was to try to push above. We'll see how far though. We're still alive. We don't get a shift on the 810 yet, so we're still alive on that, barely. We're on life support. If you're looking for long entry now, you're going to be patient for a pullback into zones below and to see if that holds. We're on life support. We almost started getting a flip there. Yeah, we're starting to get a flip here. Looks like we're going to get bounced out here if this holds on this bar. Looks like it's going to. You can see the 810 beginning to flip there. Yeah, there it is. All right, we got what we call flip out. Okay, so FLIPOUT, right? Flip out. What does that mean? All right, so when we have our stop in place, whatever that stop value is, all right, on an entry, if the ATR, right, shifts as it did here, it's an automatic stop out. Automatic. Even if it didn't hit your stop value, all right, it's an automatic stop out. So again, we want to this designates this flip out here, the shift essentially designates that cell structure against that ATR zone is just no longer valid. Okay, so if a setup is no longer valid, if a structure is no longer valid, all right, and the ATR flips, it's an automatic flip out. Take your loss, take your raspberry, it's part of the game. Move on to the next one. Okay, don't get despondent because you get stopped out. Oh, the market screwed me. You know, follow your rules and then move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. All right, so we do have acceptance through that high volume node, and now that high volume node now, this area here, right? Again, always be reading what happened at a particular area. Carry that forward with you, right? So again, close held, yeah, the close held, right? We were looking for to get back up through the prior high, right? Acceptance or rejection. We see that it's been accepted. Okay, high volume node, right, denoting, a fair amount of activity there for both sides. So now since price is above that level, should the market come back down and retest, what would you expect? What would you anticipate? Ask yourself that forward question. Well, you saw what happened. The buyers ate through whatever supply that was there and then moved it higher. So should the market come back down into that area, what would be a normal expectation? Again, rhetorical question, you can answer it yourself. I'm just outlining questions, right? So would anticipate a continued buy response. I'm not going to say support, right? A buy response. If you anticipate a buy response, you can measure a buy response. Is it happening? If you say it's support, you're putting in a term in your head that it has to be support. No, it doesn't. So what is the normal expectation? A buy response. Why? Because they bought it through that level and they cleared out some supply there. So I'm anticipating that they would buy that level, they meaning the buyers, they would again buy that level again. Should it turn out that they're not, then again, that's more market generated information, is it not? So we're not trading bars, all right? We're looking, the chart itself is offering us structural, setups as we define them, but we define them. But what I'm trying to explain here and kind of, is the thought process of what's happening at particular areas. What does this high volume node mean? All right. Is there some sort of, read that we can attach to it? What would then be a potential if it pulled back to that area? What would be anticipating? This is the thought process. That's difficult. It's not easy to teach that, but again, because most people are not taught to ask um, more informed type of questions. What happens if it doesn't hold? What happens if it pulls back there and you're anticipating that it holds and it is holding? Does that create an opportunity for you to perhaps take a trade? Maybe your confidence begins to increase that, hey, the buyers are there. Okay, I'm going to go in there and buy some also along with them. Maybe I see a discount there or some other signal that we are, looking to generate with our software. Make sense? So we're not just trading bars, we're trading what is happening and in reading volume and the understanding. And again, notice I don't have the actual order flow on here because again, that's a whole different level, of readiness and reading. What does all these, price points and bars and everything else mean? That's a whole different, deeper level. What I'm just using is just basically using just the outline of the market profile or volume profile. You know what VWAP represents, right? Weighted price of the day. You know buyers and sellers are going to want to stay around that area for a bit. It's relatively flat, the slope, but buyers, right, obviously right now are more aggressive. The sellers on the opening were the aggressor. They got absorbed, and then there you get the shift. That's the idea. So when we're looking at this, that's why we outline the levels. What would we anticipate at the prior close if it got there? If you don't have an idea of what that is, you're already behind the curve, the trading curve. In aviation, we call that being behind the power curve. You never want to be behind the power curve. Okay, literally, there's a power curve to any airplane. Okay, you never want to be on the negative side of the power curve. So same thing here. We don't want to be always trying to play catch up all the time. We want to begin anticipating what would we expect or anticipate if price came down, right? It's the if then else. If price came down to or up to a particular level, what would we anticipate? Well, then that requires you to go back and look at perhaps prior activity, either from the prior day or session. What happened there? This is why monitoring what's happening at different levels is important because you should be carrying that information forward for the next potential decision. What I also like to note is high volume, nodes, right? You get another high volume node right here. Why? I mean, what does that mean? Again, a lot of people, for whatever reason, at this level wants to do some business. Two-sided. Buyers found supply, right? So once they find supply, it stops until that supply is either totally taken out and the buyers are done, or the buyers are, right? So high volume areas, note them, carry them forward. Maybe create something where what will happen is later on that volume is probably going to get filled in to some degree, right? So if you find that, hey, that's a high volume node of interest at this moment, right? What could you do? Okay. Well, let's put a horizontal line there, right? Put a horizontal line there. Maybe make some note. Maybe write a little text there. High volume node at 10 o'clock. Because if this gets filled in later on, it may not appear as high a volume node or acute volume node that's happening right now. Does that make sense? So maybe mark it off, right? And then maybe later on down the road, where the profile is not going to look like that any longer, but you're going to have a level there that you marked off in real time because you noticed something in the market. It was a high volume area. So later on, if price returns back to this area, could be another level of interest at a later point. Okay. Yeah, we get another sideways consolidation flag here, right now. I mean, we get this move up, consolidate a little bit, a little move up, right? But yeah, so again, it's going to need to get through this level, all right? Hold it and come back. I'm not looking to short this, all right? May not be the best of a long entry at the moment, but I'm again monitor right now it's monitoring. Yeah, so there's potential for that. All right, so buyers are still, I mean, you can see this, right? Again, no reason to short this. All right, you just lean to the long side. Even when I say lean to the long side, that's not necessarily mean just go take a trade long, though you could. It's up to you based upon your plan. But the point is, right, we're not looking for shorts in this configuration. All right. So we have the overnight high. Again, we get the D level. Ram just mentioned this to be a second touch of D level here. So we'll see if that turns out to be something here. I'll move back down. If we clear that level, again, it's kind of synonymous to clearing, this high volume node area, upper value, developing upper value. So if bulls were able to clear that, again, we have upside, back up to retest the overnight high. That would be a target area there, right? So that would be, well, we just kind of lay it out here, right? So 75s and 85s kind of area. If they were able to get above these 70, 71s, kind of holding above this high volume node. All right, that's the direction. We'll see how that plays out. So, All right, so one thing we want to always do is stay on the correct side of the market. We get that read correct. It's like a big part of the battle, right? Yeah, Avis, Avis Budget Group. Get that. What a rip on car, right? All right. Yeah, somebody's getting squeezed hard on budget rent a car. So yeah, so from a cycle day one perspective, I just got the question, is this a valid cycle day one? Anybody want to answer that? Is this a valid cycle day one? Technically. Okay, Ram says yes. John South says yes. Okay, so yes, you are correct, sir. Sirs. Technically, it is a cycle day one normal. What does a cycle day one normal entail? All that matters is that the price has declined some magnitude from the prior close. So we got this little poke down below the low that fulfilled a normal cycle day one statistic, if you will. Albeit it's a shallow decline, but it does meet the definition of it. Now, how does that help us? Well, we have to recognize, number one, again, in our preparation here, that this was one of the scenarios, was a move to the close, maybe a push below the close, right? And then either a reclaim, right, or a failure to reclaim. Now, how can you frame out a trade for yourself? If you see that, now this is a 60-minute chart, but you know the level, 52s. Okay, so you know the level. So let's kind of go on the execution charts here for a moment, right? So you know the level. So it's either RC, reclaim, right, or NRC. Let's use those acronyms. What do those stand for? Reclaim or no reclaim? I'm big on acronyms. right? But it's more the concept than an acronym. Whatever it works for you, however you want to say. So if we're looking for, we got to move down. If it reclaims, so if we see that it's reclaiming in real time, not past tense, but in real time, well, we know what level that is, right? 52s. So draw a line at 52s. Okay. This is how you set this up. So that's the prior close. So if price then goes above that, and you could see that it did, and the momentum here shifted. Okay, we got a pre-bull stacker here. Okay, so if you see this happening, and that is one of the anticipated scenarios, what is your course of action? So we've already done the observation orientation. Okay, we're looking for then the decision action cycle. So if reclaim, right? So if reclaim, right? Prior close, then what? You see how I'm framing it out here? A little shorthand, right? So if the price, so you can say price if you want, if price reclaims prior close, then what? What's your course of action? If you're looking at a 60-minute and you're waiting for that 60-minute, I mean, you're waiting 60 minutes. That's crazy, right? So we're not looking to wait 60 minutes. We're just looking for what's happening at that level. And you can see here at the level, it was actually shifting at that level. So we're in dynamic mode and we're getting a shift. You could put a buy stop, or you just say, hey, it's shifting. Let me just buy something at the market. Let me get on board. Let me establish an initial trade. Okay? However way you want to do it, that's your choice. I'm trying to what I'm trying to get across to everybody now. I mean, I'm not you can be as mechanical as you need to be on all of this stuff. Okay? How you want to enter, how you want to exit, work that out. And that's key part of any trade plan. But also, right, is how to read the price action in terms of reclaiming or not reclaiming, right, holding, things like that. You got to be thinking about that in advance. What tools can I use? We have plenty of tools. What tools can I use? Okay. Yeah, well, you have to determine what a valid exit is as well in what you're looking for. Again, all this stuff kind of needs to kind of be thought about in advance. And here's the thing, there's a number of different scenarios that unfold, okay, that we can play. What you want to have is you want to have a couple core plays, or maybe even just one core play for that matter, but you want to have a couple core plays, and you're going to do the same thing repeatedly on all those core plays. So if it's a reclaim of any level, maybe I'm looking for a stacker, a bull stacker, a bear stacker, just to initiate a position. Stackers are very good, by the way, because here's a case where a stacker would be, or a pre-stacker would be very good in here. If you're waiting for the first pullback, you don't really you get a first pullback here, but it's not, we don't even, it's well past a good opportunity. All right. So a lot of times, particularly on reclaims, if it's reclaiming a level, think about it for a second. If it's reclaiming a level, the momentum is shifting, you're not going to get a pullback that quickly. It generally is not going to happen that way. So if you're looking for a reclaim of a level, whatever that level may be, today we're just talking about the close. If you're looking for a reclaim of that level, you got to be anticipating um, perhaps using a pre-stacker or a stacker type, formation, right? Looking for the CCI down here, right, to shift, to get above the zero line, greater than zero. Okay, again, that's momentum, bullish momentum above zero, right? So where is that beginning to happen over here? Early. So you had this premium, by the way, that did not trigger. And what type of trade is that? Well, right? That could be what? The BLT. Barbara's in the room today. Barbara Lopez trade. That's her trade. So what is that? Taking out the premium high, that becomes the buy entry, right? Review that on the website. Again, all these kind of different types of tools that we have that help us enter a trade. But before the entry of a trade like that, the thought process has to be there. If it reclaims, what am I looking for? If it doesn't reclaim, what am I looking for? All right. If you're not thinking of that in advance, this is why we go over the OTA loop format. It's your decision process. Okay. Very good. Very good. Hopefully that helps. You may want to, in this case here, I may want to put another volume node, right? You got another high volume node right over here, okay, up at this high. So maybe now since you have two locations, maybe you decide to do, you decide to do a rectangle, right? So now that outlines those two high volume nodes and extend that rectangle out into the future there. And so maybe, and leave it up there, and maybe some few days from now or something, price revisits this area. And then you'll be glad you identified some key area here, potentially, that we could use in the future. All right, so now we don't have any auto trades in this area here at the moment, as you can clearly see. All right, so just kind of describing the market action, ways of, kind of thinking about reclaims, trying to lay out some scenarios in advance. You can do this on your own. You should actually very much try to do this on your own, outlining if that's kind of where you want to take your trading in that direction. Some of you are just purely mechanical traders and nothing wrong with that. Everybody's different. And analysis, like this doesn't do it for you. Doesn't matter to you, you know. All right, so everybody is, has their ways, right? This is more kind of discretionary thought process is, well, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? You can formulate some very good trades, you know, by doing this. But again, it's all up to you. Just trying to give you some different ways of approaching these things. All right. Again, dip down to VWAP. What we're anticipating a dip down to VWAP. What would happen on a dip down? Look at this again. High volume node. What would be expected there? Again, more rhetorical questioning here for everybody, right? We would expect what? We already outlined that before, right? A buy response, not support. Didn't mention support. Don't want to mention support. Just we're expecting a buy response. So what happened there? Got a buy response. I'm not saying it shifted back to a full bullish mode, right? That's different. What we're saying is, again, we can identify a high volume area. What would we anticipate at that area if price goes back to that area, right? So this could be kind of a potential trade for somebody here where it pulls down and it kind of reclaims that VWAP for a moment, right? And it maybe that offers a trade. Now, yes, we're going against the EMAs of compressing a little bit and so forth. Again, you kind of have to, sometimes maybe overlook that. If it's part of your key litmus of taking a trade, then maybe you're not taking a trade like this. All right. But again, what I'm trying to get across here is not so much, it's more the thought process, the decision making, because that's where it all comes down to is what's the decision making. I'm trying to point out ideas as the market is moving around, right? So you got the VWAP there. Well, you got an A4 shift over here, right? So we got to move back up to the A4. Again, is there something that if you're looking at A4, is there something there that you could potentially be working with if that's kind of in your trade plan? Well, we got to move below the EMAs here, the 89, the ATR. We got a shift of the ATR, right? We got to move back to the ATR. Now, is that a trade for you? It's not necessarily a premium there. Well, maybe it is. Yeah, very, very small premium, but even a pullback to the ATR, is that a trade for you? So you could be thinking this: if it breaks that ATR like it did, if it breaks the EMAs like it did, okay, this becomes what? A4 first pullback. If that's in your plan, then what you're doing is you're looking to take a trade right at that level. And it just so happened to be for this session at the moment, that high volume node. May not be, but it is for today, right? So you can clearly see, well, then, I'm going to take, you're not paying attention to the VWAP. That's just, again, I'm just using that as an example for those looking at VWAP. But if you're looking at our stuff strictly, there's your A4. I'm going to play an A4. Think about that in advance. I'm going to play an A4 on a shift. Okay. There's your A4 over here on the left on the shift. This A4 got stopped out, right? The long. We got a shift. This A4, and now it's playing out. Your mind needs to be, your mind needs to be adequately flexible with this stuff, particularly if you're, this intraday trading time frame. Okay, we're not investing. We're looking for shifts in the market. We got a shift. I'm going to go with the shift. Where do I go with the shift? Hey, got an A4. Okay, I'm going to I'm going to, lob an order at the A4. A sell limit, right? Or I'm going to watch that real closely and be ready on, clicking an entry. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of paying close attention. You can have the computer help you do it, or you can do it on your own, right? All right. Questions, comments on any of this stuff? All right. All right. So just back to kind of mid ground here. So what's the shift now? So we have again, at this stage, right, we're still kind of in the middle here, as you can see. But what would be the next bullish shift? What would need to happen? So I'm just asking another question. What would need to happen for the next bullish shift? Gonna have to take out this pivot here, 67s. So the price is gonna have to come up here and reshift back up there, won't it? Okay, so 67s. Bulls need to clear that again. That would force a potential shift of the A4 back to a bullish configuration. Until then, you can play bounces, right, to the A4 level or to that 67 level, looking for what? Right? Looking for reversals back down. This is what I mean about staying in alignment, right? And again, you can narrow it right down to, you know, to the micro level like this and say, okay, you get an 810 on tap here on the long side. Again, coming down into this area. So we'll see if that triggers or not. In the meantime, we're managing a short of the A4. So two types of different trades here, both potential. All right, guys, I'll be back in just a few minutes here. All right, guys, back with you here. Just took a short break, refreshment break. What do we have going here? So we got stopped out on a trail of the A4 here, so that was a good trade. And we got in on the A10 here, long, and we scaled out target one. Okay, on both. So one short, one long, different levels. Uh, Stops in place now on the balance of the A10. All right, so mitigated the risk on that long there. And price is just kind of right back into this zone, right? So we got a little pop up here. If you were looking for a pop up, okay, this is when I was away. We got a little premium there, pop up right there into the premium zone. So it looked like it was a fairly quick move. Might have been just a news blurb of some sort. I don't know what that was. Right. All right, stop trail on the 810 is fulfilled, so that basically a scratch trade, maybe a slight raspberry, but no big deal for the most part. Yeah, that move looked like it snapped up pretty quickly. Look, it was just a buy program. All right, we got a premium playing out here. Let's see if that totally works for us. All right, that premium playing out as well. I think this may be our last trade before I have to jump off. I gotta jump off here nearby. I got 11 o'clock meeting. Any questions or anything? What we went over so far this morning? All right. Again, we had some opportunities, some trades, couple winners, couple losers, kind of, back and forth here. All right. Yes, John and Ram both mentioned the D level. Also, you had that second touch of the D level. So that again, that was also a play. Okay, so John South and Ram both get the QP on that one. Right, again, second touch. They did post it up in the room at 10:08, 10:09. D level touch, second touch. All right, so that was an opportunity there if you're looking for that off the D level. Right. That's what I'm saying. So you get, your number of different plays here throughout. Again, doesn't mean you have to take every single one of them. And I don't think that's to be the case. But if it's again, if it's in your wheelhouse, right, as part of your trade plan, there it is. All right. All right. Let's just go over that one before I leave. I can extend my meeting. Let me put the D level on here. All right. So we got the D level. I think it's on this chart. Maybe not. Oh yeah, here it is. All right. So if I unhide the D level, look at this. Look at this. This is what I'm saying where we have so much potential. Let me just move this like this here with these tools. Okay. There's your D level right there, the yellow line. Okay, D level. That's the same D levels we're looking at over here. Right. And so Ram and John South both mentioned D level, second touch of the day, 10:08, 10:09. So great. So price moves up into the D level. Okay. Now, again, rhetorical question, do you take a trade exactly at the D level? It is an entry. It is an entry if that's the way you want to conduct your trade plan. So again, we looked at the playbook a few times in the past, and it is an entry at the level. All right. So again, that was one approach. The second approach, okay, would be what? Coming off the D level, okay, coming off the D level and getting a first pullback against the D level. So you get an A4, first pullback, D level. Okay. Everybody tracking? Bueller, you tracking Bueller? Right. So what have we talked about in? Okay, great, thank you. So what here? So here's the playbook. What's the playbook show? D level tag. Note, D level is an entry. This is the long side trade. First pullback can be a new trade or an add based upon your plan. So a first pullback following the tag of the D level. This is in the playbook. What do we have here? D level tag, if you again, is an entry. if that's part of your trade plan, but it is an entry according to the playbook, or a first pullback, in this case, a premium ATR4. Right? So that's a legitimate play on a tag. Right? Now, the question then always becomes, well, it's the second touch. Okay? It's the second touch. Isn't the first touch the most reliable? We always like looking at the first touch, but again, right? Put everything in context. If it comes back up to the D level for a second bite at the apple, for you attorneys out there, they love to use that, right? Attorneys love to use two phrases: second bite at the apple, and is it fair to say? Those are the two phrases attorneys love, right? But here at the second touch, okay, can that be a valid trade? Absolutely. Just because it's second touch, it's still a touch. It's still a valid level. All right. So the validity of this level does not diminish because it's the second touch. And I will leave you with that because I do have to go here for an 11 o'clock meeting. So we'll have this up and recorded on the website a little bit later on. Be sure to review it at later points. And we shall see everybody again on Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.